Hi everyone, my name is Vandy and I'm a product manager at Google. Today, I'm excited to share with you some of Google's latest innovation in the policy space called policy intelligence. And joining me is Nicole Liang, who is a principal engineer at Target, an organization with more than 350,000 employees. And Nicole will walk us through some of Target's advanced tooling and journey in achieving least privilege in the cloud. Everyone knows this. Cloud is complicated. And for many of you, it can sometimes feel like cloud has more knobs and dials than this cockpit does. And as a result of this, achieving security goals like least privilege can be really hard. Gartner found that more than 95% of the accounts use less than 3% of the entitlements they are granted. This over provisioning is a real common problem and a threat. And there are several factors causing this, like a lack of visibility into understanding how well policies are configured, understanding effective access, weak governance and oversight, and the elastic nature of cloud that makes it more difficult to audit, often leading to carryover access from previous assignments. So, this is where policy intelligence comes in. We asked ourselves, what could we do to empower our customers to manage their policies with intelligence and automation? And after speaking with many of you, we heard three answers loud and clear. First, you want to gain comprehensive understanding of your system so you can govern effectively and find out what went wrong quickly. Second, you want to improve your cloud easily. And third, you want to prevent mistakes from happening altogether. Our policy intelligence solutions help customers do exactly that. We provide end to end capabilities with tools like Recommender, Analyzer, Simulator, and Troubleshooter. So let's start with IAM Recommender. Recommender makes it super easy for you to rectify overgranting. We are super excited that customers are using this daily to minimize their attack surface. IAM Recommender helps security and non security professionals identify and remove unwanted access to GCP. Using machine learning, we make smart access control recommendations. As you can see here in the IAM page, we make it easy for everyone to identify and fix overgranting for all users, groups, and service accounts. The recommender will show you how many permissions you have given and what is actually being used. There is absolutely no config or setup required by customers. There's no need to collect and parse through activity logs. We've done all of that hard work for you. Even when we don't have a recommendation, we are providing visibility into what someone is using. It looks like here there are a few users who are using a lot less than they were granted. You will see here that the light bulbs have popped up. This is where our ML models have found a recommendation for a better fitting role. I can click on the light bulb here to get further details. Here, Recommender shows me the analysis behind the recommendation. It suggests the user should be moved to the App Engine Viewer role, and why? By highlighting the permissions that are safe to remove in red. ML also picks up that this account will need the App Engine applications get permission in the future based on similar usage patterns. This helps make sure that the user or account does not miss out on permissions and you don't need to come back to request more later. I just need to hit apply and make the change and I am done. You can find and apply recommendations across all your projects, folders, and organization level policies. And in our latest update, we now help you efficiently identify lateral movement and fix it. Lateral movement insights help you identify all service accounts with impersonation permissions in other projects. It scans through the policy configurations and reports on all policies that allow a service account from one project to impersonate a service account in another project. If I want to find out more, I can click on the light bulb. The insights include detailed information about the service account with impersonation permissions, such as the other service accounts it can impersonate and when in the last 90 days it has used its impersonation permissions. All you need to do is hit apply and remove its impersonation capabilities and any excess permissions it has. It's as simple as that when it comes to managing insider risk and dealing with overgranting. Now, for pro tips. As we just saw, use IAM Recommender to reduce lateral movement risk. Secondly, don't use legacy roles like owner and editor roles. Use IAM Recommender to scope down access to more granular roles. This product now provides a migration path from these legacy roles to multiple smaller roles, which is best practice. And third, use this feature to create meaningful custom roles that are based on actual activity data and ML. And fourth, if you have many projects and recommendations, leverage IAM Recommender's prioritization framework to identify the severity of recommendations we provide and to understand which ones you want to apply first. And finally, you don't need to do anything to keep track of the progress you're making. Leverage IAM Recommender to do all that work for you. You can easily see how many recommendations you have applied and how many excess permissions are left across your users, service accounts, and groups. Next, onto Policy Analyzer. Access reviews are a necessary and common practice among organizations, but it's time consuming and painful for administrators. If you're looking to understand who has access to what does that access secure, what are users doing with that access, you can do so efficiently with our query tool, Policy Analyzer. Based on customer demand, we have a number of templated queries to get you started. Customers are running these queries regularly to monitor who has sensitive permissions and monitor any access changes to production resources. But let's say you're worried about insider risk and you want to see all users who can impersonate service accounts in a project. You can select that query right here. We automatically populate the query template with the required parameters. All you have to do is run the query. In the results, within seconds, you can see all the users who can impersonate service accounts, what roles grant them this capability, and where they inherited this permission from. It's that simple. Now, for pro tips. If you're wondering how someone's access will change when they're moved from one group to another, use Policy Analyzer to understand access impact. You'll be able to determine if users are able to gain indirect access to resources through service account impersonation and use it to query and create reports for privilege escalation and access reviews. And if you're wondering what changed in a policy and when, use Policy Analyzer to understand the history of your policies. Now, onto Simulator. We kept hearing that decreasing permissions in production is scary. Because of this, excess permissions were lingering longer. Simulator removes this scare. Policy Simulator will help you make sure you do not disrupt developer productivity or break an application by changing or revoking a service account's access. Static simulation can be helpful, but what you really want to see is what is going to break. With Policy Simulator, admins can check the proposed policy changes against the 90-day access history of the user to see if the changes would block any access that was previously used. Let's say you're changing someone's access from owner to BigQuery admin. Policy Simulator shows which permissions were in use would be revoked with this new role. Simulator also shows you when and where the permissions were used. So admins now can assess the impact of a change and ensure the user's productivity is not impacted. Now, don't just rely on a static analysis of permissions. Leverage Policy Simulator to do a replay of logs to ensure you're not revoking any necessary access. And use this tool, especially when you're making bulk changes to your policies across your organization. And finally, onto Policy Troubleshooter. We understand the pain of debugging root cause of an access error. Policy Troubleshooter empowers admins and end users to understand why specific actions are allowed or denied. When you use Policy Troubleshooter, it will show you the relevant policies across the hierarchy so admins can make a decision on the best place to grant the developer access. It will tell you if the user doesn't have access because they didn't meet conditions in the IAM policies, or because they don't belong to a group, or because they're missing permissions. Policy Troubleshooter has really simplified debugging access issues, and it has saved our customers a ton of time. Here are some ways you can use Policy Troubleshooter. Not sure if a service account that is buried in a group can reach a resource? Troubleshooter will show you group memberships for nested groups. Designed as an admin self-service tool, you can also integrate it into your help desk tools like Jira. And we're excited, we're extending this tool to support things like IAM conditions, VPC service control, and identity-aware proxy errors. These policy intelligence tools like Recommender, Analyzer, Simulator, Troubleshooter can help you figure out your current state of your policies and give you proactive guidance on how to achieve least privilege. Target is one of Google Cloud's largest customers, and they have been using it for a long time. They work closely with us in providing early feedback and have been a strong advocate in shaping the direction. I am super excited to hand it over to Nicole to talk about how Target leverages policy intelligence to achieve least privilege. Thank you. Over to you, Nicole.
Thanks, Vandy. I'm Nicole Liang, and I'm a principal engineer on Target's public cloud team. Target is a nationwide discount retailer based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with over 1,800 stores and 39 distribution centers, ranking 38 in the Fortune 500. In addition to our 1,800 stores, we also have Target.com. Target.com is Target's largest store and the fourth most visited retail website in the nation, visited by over 100 million guests per month. Target is retail powered by technology, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how Google Cloud and the Policy Intelligence Suite enables us to make more informed decisions about our cloud environment. At Target, we started our GCP journey just over 5 years ago, and today we have over 230 Google Cloud projects and over 1,500 engineers and developers utilizing Google Cloud in some capacity. With that, we have over 4,000 service accounts in Google Cloud across the various Google Cloud projects and Target applications. Target's strategy for cloud is fairly simple. We want to bring an environment and experience that is repeatable, ubiquitous, and portable among our compute providers. To do this, we abstract away as much of the underlying providers as possible and create facades to enable a consistent developer experience. This allows us to lean into a principle of zero touch to the resources. Maintaining least privilege and isolation amongst services and resources has become our new challenge and forward-thinking goal. In 2017, Target completed a full migration to Google Cloud from another cloud provider for what we call our non-commerce applications in Target.com. Think about functions like searching and browsing on the website. The following year, we had a need to move our commerce environment out of a colo facility and once again chose GCP for those workloads. The second migration rounded out the Target.com guest experience, browse to checkout in Google Cloud. Through our work on non-commerce, we found ways to make the platform better as Google released new features. Non-commerce originated with one large project per level of the environment. And our commerce migration brought us into the world of shared VPCs. We currently have 9 shared VPC environments in our organization. With this large implementation, we needed a way to maintain state and chose HashiCorp Terraforms to provide the infrastructure as code layer. To date, we have had over 10,000 pull requests to our Terraform repositories. However, the rate of pull requests that my team both receives and creates has slowed significantly as we've matured in the platform. With large scale and complex deployments comes the need to define various policies. And today we have just under 130,000 role bindings across our entire Google Cloud organization. So how do we apply these roles to our users and service accounts? First off, we mostly use groups for user permissions. I would say always, but there tend to be outliers to rules. A user will request a role via a pull request to our Terraform repositories in GitHub. My team, the Cloud Platform team, will review the request and the output from our Terraform management tool, Atlantis. If accepted, the PR will be approved and Atlantis will run the apply. If not, my team will request changes. In these requests, we expect a few things from our partner teams: a clear understanding of what they're requesting and why they are requesting these permissions, knowledge and understanding of how to use HCL and Terraform, and how our custom Terraform modules work. Most importantly is a firm understanding of the GCP IAM roles and the underlying permission sets within those roles. Unfortunately, this tends to be a desired flow, and more often than not, it doesn't occur in this nice pattern. And more often than not, feedback is requested from my team. What we tend to see is customers have ideas and they bring them to our team either for a new product or a POC or additional functionality for existing service and application. My team tends to take a more hands-on approach and will either live walk through the individual roles and permissions required to achieve the goal, or will communicate async via chat. The desired flow then comes into play with a review and the approval process. It does sometimes take more than one go around to get the customer exactly what they want. Some of the challenges that we encounter in this model are ambient and break glass activities where a role isn't necessarily needed for everyday use and has a risk to persist beyond the needed time frame. Retired services and applications where teams don't fully consider the resources they need to retire, or knowledge is lost in the changing hands and ownership and responsibility of an application. POCs that continue well beyond a few weeks period or have constantly fluctuating roles and permission sets based on changing requirements. Services like Firebase that require higher level permissions to link to other non-cloud Google services. And as I mentioned previously, in our flow, sometimes our partner teams just don't know what they need. Additionally, quick start documentation can be overly permissive and will have teams coming to us saying that they require owner-level roles. And finally, our own Terraform accounts require high-level permissions on the org, the folder, the projects, and services for the various management functions. We've addressed these concerns with the intelligence tools to analyze our state, view the recommendations based on real data from our environments, and to make decisions with effective and thorough feedback from these tools. The policy intelligence service where we saw the biggest improvement in our environment was the Recommender service. Recommender takes the roles currently applied to our identities and evaluates them on the last 90 days of use. Based on those insights, Recommender shows a count of unused permissions and recommends more fine-grained controls for the given identity. Because of the data that we've gathered from Recommender, we were able to reduce 2.7 million permissions across our environment in an initial cleanup effort that secured over 4,000 user and service accounts, all of which reduces the likelihood of a successful attack and supports a more secure environment as a whole. When Target started at Google Cloud, it was a time when there were only primitive roles in GCP: owner, editor, viewer. Service-level curated roles were not solidified and were not yet generally available. As such, our user groups would get high-level viewer roles and our service accounts would get the more actionable primitive roles. This was not a great place for us to be, so as soon as curated roles were released, we started to implement them. And what really allowed us to go further in our journey of least privilege was custom roles, where we could cherry pick individual permissions and create exactly what our partner teams needed and what we felt comfortable giving to them. And this is where Recommender really helped us to define least privilege for each resource based on actionable data points from our environment. However, we did find challenges. With Zero Touch, we do most compute deployment functions through Spinnaker. However, some teams need to do things like mount persistent disks from their VMs. At this time, compute admin had to be given out to facilitate these actions, which we viewed as overly permissive given the compute changes should be routed via our approved CI/CD pipelines. From this example, we can see how we were able to reduce the permissions given to our Spinnaker accounts to only image user roles and not the full compute suite of permissions. We do have some nuances when we get to applying the recommendations given to us. Most of these are self-inflicted. All of our IAM operations must be through Terraform for both state management and auditing purposes. We do not apply recommendations directly in the console or via gcloud. Therefore, when it comes time for us to reconcile these recommendations with current state, it can be a little bit intimidating looking at our very, very large Terraform repos and find specifically what we need to change. A large part of this comes down to knowledge silos as well. IAM Viewer isn't a role that we readily hand out to teams, and my team tends to be highly specialized. For instance, I may know more about GCP IAM and the Policy Intelligence Suite than a partner team or even someone else on my team. So when it does come time to apply these recommendations, we take a little bit of a different approach. We're building out a recommendations and insights UI to aggregate these insights based on resource attribution so that a team, platform, or customer can understand how the resources for IAM or firewall policy are attributed to the various application teams. Reviews are done on a quarterly basis, first to ensure that they're done on a specific cadence, and second, so there isn't fatigue from reviewing. This means that we must be diligent to dismiss recommendations where we know it's an edge case, like our Terraform service accounts, for platform instantiation. But at the same time, evaluating whether the object is still truly needed or if maybe we need to create a new role or even split out the various functions of a service account to reduce impact. One of the policy intelligence services that I thought was going to be rife with remediations and insights for us in our classic environments was lateral movement. One of the things we always hear about is side channel attacks and privilege escalations, which is a huge reason why we wanted to be able to visualize this information. From our shared VPC projects to our classic pool projects, there's always the chance of a misconfiguration, a copy-paste error from host to service or from test to prod. Lateral movements makes it easy for us to visualize and understand this risk. I was super pleased when I got my hands on this product and ran the first gcloud command. It really solidified all the work that my team has done over the years and really gave us added confidence in our environment and state. We had significantly less reported insights than I expected, and in the future, we do plan to use this insight as a metric to ensure that we, one, stay secure in the space, and two, to reinforce how to properly apply service account IAM roles to limit impersonation activities between projects. While we saw great strides with Recommender and great outcomes with Lateral Move, we created a bit of friction in trying to work through creating custom roles. We'd create a custom role and then get a 401. What really helped us was Troubleshooter, especially when we're talking about reducing the debugging time that comes with sifting through larger permission sets to find out what is missing. Some of the challenges that came with creating and implementing custom roles were unforeseen and less frequently used permissions being removed. For instance, the mounting of disks example. Not all of our partner teams need persistent disk. We removed instance admin, and then a team would need to redeploy and not be able to mount a disk. We thought about potentially creating a break glass flow for permissions, but it turned out to be too heavy of a reliance on get ops, and we needed to be able to move faster than that, faster than waiting on PR reviews. Troubleshooter allowed us to look at the individual identities and resources to ensure viability, which we then layered with IAM conditions for even tighter controls, so that an application team would only be able to perform actions against their own defined resources. We still do have hesitation in refining roles. There is the unknown and concerns that we might term a role that is only used in a greater than 90-day period. However, Troubleshooter has greatly helped us to reduce the time to mitigate for this issue should we ever encounter it in the future. Some of the other use cases that we have for Troubleshooter are, to reinforce this point again, the reconciliation can be hard, and Troubleshooter has helped us cut down on that strife. We use Troubleshooter to document our own process and for partner teams to construct a first pass policy for review. While testing out new products and services, Troubleshooter has helped us to better understand how to integrate new resources into existing resources and to diagnose identity access issues. One of the newer services that we're just starting to look into is Policy and Activity Analyzer. We've been in Google Cloud for 5 years. Now we've gone through inter and now intra provider migrations, and as we look to update our classic project implementations to the new shared VPC model, In that time, there are some things that are cruft, left over, shells of their former selves. Applications have gone clear through the application lifecycle process. We need to be able to identify things that are in the org without cause and clean them up. From compliance obligations to ensuring a clean lifecycle and least privilege, and even simple things like making sure our Terraform plans run faster. Analyzer helps us to find and term out some of the crust based on templated queries and custom queries to help us through our security journey. So, what we've achieved using the Policy Intelligence Suite. New and vast insights into one of our most important boundaries in the cloud. We can take this data and make more educated and clear-cut decisions about our environment to ensure we are achieving least privilege. Tighter controls. As I talked about with our journey to custom roles, we've exponentially decreased the number of permissions available to both service accounts and groups with the help of the Policy Intelligence Suite. Flexibility comes from how we can better service our partners by providing them with only the permissions they need, only on the services and resources required. Uniformity and ubiquity. By looking at this data cross-sectioned against our projects, folders, and the org, we can ensure we are providing the same consistent permissions throughout our environment. And now I'm going to hand it back to Vandy to close us out.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nicole. We're excited that customers like Target are using these tools in such interesting ways. And finally, Policy Intelligence is part of the Active Assist solution. Active Assist solution is an array of intelligent tools that help you optimize your cloud for cost, performance, high availability, close security gaps proactively, and more. By using these capabilities within Active Assist, you are empowered to focus more on your business and less on cloud administration. We hope you will try out these solutions. And once again, thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you all so much for joining us today.